Hey everybody, welcome to How the Sausage is Made with Chris Cosentino, where I talk with chefs, restaurateurs, athletes, philanthropists, and pretty much anybody that inspires me. We look below the surface, behind the curtain, and dig deep into how these people got to where they are today. Wins, losses, and everything in between. All right, everybody. Today we have a really fun guest. This is Chef Kari Shaughnessy from Hayward in Carlton, Oregon. And for those of you who do not know where Carlton, Oregon is, it is in the center of the wine belt of Oregon. I'd say about what, Kari, like an hour or so out of Portland?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. So Kari and I kind of have this unique circle of how we've know each other, have worked around each other. But then a couple weeks ago, I was up in Portland for my Alada, and we actually got to hang out, cook, and I got to eat at her delicious restaurant, Hayward. So, Kari, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join me today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So, Kari, I know you've listened to the podcast. You told me how you and Jimmy
We
had to throw
do.
Jimmy in. I had to throw Jimmy in there. You know the deal. You know what this is about. It's about you and about how you got to where you are today. And how did it start? And I think that's always an interesting question because everybody got to where they are through a different path. But what made you choose restaurants?
I have never done any other job, so I never worked in any other industry. I started working for a catering company when I was about 14. Really just because it was a job that I could get, if that makes sense.
Isn't that funny that that is truly, for a lot of folks, that childhood job, right? You were a
It was
dishwasher,
the
busboy,
yeah,
or a waitress, or a cook, or we all started because it was easy access job.
it was the job. It was like the local catering company. The owner knew my parents and they knew my grandparents, and I was like, "Great, I can get a job." But it was funny because they were like women worked front of house very clearly. So I got in there as a server for this catering company. And there was no, I tried. I was always like, I like to cook. Let me in the kitchen. And they were like, no, Tim would kill me. I know him very well. But it was not really an option. It was not taken seriously until I worked there from I was 14 to 21.
And
A
where
long
where
time.
was this? Where was this that you?
This was in Massachusetts. Small town called Essex. I'm from a tinier town called Manchester. And so throughout high school and throughout college, because I went to college in Boston, all of my summers and all of my like Christmas and winter breaks, I spent working for this catering company.
That's crazy.
Hmm.
So a fellow East Coaster, I can say
Hmm.
wicked right now.
Absolutely.
Wicked pissa. Good old East Coast.
Yep. We love it.
Yeah. So you're working at this catering company. That's in a pretty heavy extended period of time of consistency at one
It
place.
was a long time. So I got to see a lot of different things. I mean, once I was taken a bit more seriously, I got to do like some things in the kitchen.
How many
I got
how
to
many
do
lobster
baking.
boils? How many lobster boils did you guys
So
do?
many lobsters. So we made so many crab cakes. Like we made these lobster quesadillas that I very specifically remember. I mean, my memories from working at this place are like pretty top notch. I was thrown into this industry like my first day on the job after the party you get back, we had like this like commissary kitchen, right, that you operate out of, and the dish pit is there. And I just vividly remember standing on a milk crate and holding a bottle of like ice cold vodka into my boss's mouth as he washed dishes. And like this was 14 day one in the industry. And it's just like, what is happening?
You know, I mean, that is, in my opinion, that kind of like New England summer, get your ass handed to you
Every day.
every day. And they worked really, really, really fucking hard and they
Totally.
partied just as hard.
That's what we did.
I mean,
I,
that is the epitome of what New England, summer work catering is, right?
Yep.
Like I don't even think it's full. It hasn't even fully become spring back east right now. I just talked to my mom the other day and she's like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, yesterday it was 40 and today it's 80. Yeah,
I
that
heard the
sounds about,
weather's been crazy. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like you go through these spurts and you're just like, okay, summer's here. It's like the sun's out, bun's out, everybody's at the beach, everybody
Yep.
starts ripping parties.
Yeah. It was just chaotic. Like I, by the time I was 16, I was working like 3 different jobs. So I was working for them. I loved working. I hated school and I loved working. So I catered parties with them. And then they took over like a food program at a country club. And so then I would work there during the day. And then I started my own cookie business when I was 16. And so I would like get home from these parties at 2 a.m. and I would make all of my cookie dough. And then I would chill it all down and I would sleep for a few hours and I would wake up and I would bake all these cookies and I would deliver it to all the farm stands. Like the classic, like old New England farm stands, like side of the
Oh,
road.
yeah.
And they would all sell
These
my cookies.
And for those of you who don't know about these New England food stands, it's like on the side of the road, usually a stone wall that's been there for centuries, right?
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
all balanced, no cement. All the rocks are just perfectly placed in to balance it. And it's an honor system. You pick things up and you
Hmm.
put money in a little box. And they're
And you could
amazing.
get cookies.
Cookies and corn and
So much
tomatoes.
corn. Yep.
And those things are magic.
They're great. They're the best.
I love it.
It was beautiful.
I miss those actually. I miss going by those and
I
like
know. I do too.
it's pretty
But yeah,
cool.
that was kind of the start of my career. And then I thought about going to culinary school, but I did not want to for whatever reason. In my mind, I was like, I want a true college experience, whatever that means. And so I went to Boston College. I got a degree in communications and management, whatever that means. Like, I don't know why that was the replacement for culinary school.
But that's actually interesting because I think one thing that chefs don't learn is how to talk to each other.
Very
One,
true.
communication, and two,
Very true.
management, right? Like nobody, when you're learning to cook, nobody teaches you how to manage your peers.
No.
So like the fact that you got that and then learn to cook through experience is a whole different level of like
Hmm.
smarts, in my
Hmm.
opinion, because like nobody taught me how to manage people. Nobody taught me how to talk to people. I mean, for fuck's sake, I'm a caveman, right? Like, and I know it. And it's like, I wish I had that better training. And like you went to school for it. So it's like, perfect.
That I got. Yes. And I got that I was just talking to my dad about this too, because we were on vacation together this week. And I'm like remembering these times as a kid where he always was like, he wanted an entrepreneur child. One of the 3 of us had to get that gene. And he used to we would practice handshakes together when I was a kid,
Wow.
like to work on and now I really notice it with people. I shake people's hand and I'm like, damn, that's a bad handshake. Can't say that out loud. But like
That's,
we would practice eye contact, like we would like do all of these things that were like professional first. And so I kind of got that instilled in me, and which is great. I think it makes a difference, like you're saying, in managing. And I really like people was always my thing. I loved this catering company for the people, and I liked being on the other side of the party, and I liked seeing all the different walks of life that all these different people who wouldn't end up in the same room if it weren't for this industry. That was always the part that like got me and kept me coming back, is that I would have never had an opportunity to meet these different people unless I was doing this job.
I think that's a really good point, right? Like food brings everyone together, right? And I think it's a powerful medium,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
there is a place in Martha's Vineyard that I fell in love with this place, and it's when I was working out there. It was a diner. It was right on the dock, and they had this T-shirt that they used to sell, and I thought it was the funniest thing in the world because it had a picture of the chef cooking, and he was like this long-haired dude, right? Nothing,
Hmm.
nothing glamorous. And this is a diner, and in the picture, it showed a fisherman with his little toque on with flies going around him, a priest, a vampire, a cop, a hooker, And then on the other side, a family and kids. And that was the perfect, to me, that
That's
t-shirt,
the restaurant industry.
it's the restaurant industry. It set this, instilled in my mind. It's like, that's what I want the restaurants to be for the rest of my life. Like, I want people to feel that comfortable all sitting
Absolutely.
at the same counter in the same
Mhm,
space. And that's what the restaurant does. Like, I think that's what hospitality is. You create this environment of comfort, but you also
mhm.
meet all these different people. It makes it magic.
It makes it so magical, and I don't think people always I vividly remember, like, being home one summer and working some party, and because I would often run into situations where I knew these adults who I was serving at these parties, and this one woman was like she looked at me and she was like I went to high school with her daughter, and she was like, "Well, you're still doing this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm still doing it." She's like, "Well, my daughter has an internship in New York City. You know, she's working for this, like, fashion institution." I was like, "Good for you. This is what I wanna be doing." Brats. I like it. People don't realize the connection that you get to build in a kitchen, the insight on life that it gives you because you get all these different sorts of people. You just get so much more knowledge than I think people could ever understand on the outside. It's one of my favorite parts.
So you're there, right? You're
Mhm,
21, you work with them, on and off through college, holiday breaks, which I'm sure holidays were chaos.
mhm.
Um, what a way to take a month off of college, right? Being like
Yeah,
full bore through Thanksgiving and then through the
yeah.
Christmas holiday. But smart, you're putting away cash and doing your thing. And
Mhm.
what was that next step for you after being with those folks for so long at the catering company?
My last year of college, I spent working at Flour Bakery in Boston. I did an internship there and then ended up getting a job and worked part-time there, and that was really my first insight into a kitchen that wasn't a catering company, which is catering kitchens are very different than regular kitchens, I learned quickly. Um, and that was great because I got all of the, like our stations were this big, and I remember, like, opening a Cambro and, like, putting the lid next to it, and someone would walk by me and be like, would swipe that lid underneath the Cambro. Like, everything was so tightly organized because you had so little space to work. And I got to do all the grunt work of, like, here's a microplane and here's a case of lemons, like, we need lemon zest, and all of those things. And I also got yelled at a lot, which was great. I remember, like, making scones and putting a bowl in the dishwasher, and the dishwasher came back to me with a bench scraper, and it was, like, 2 scones worth of dough that they, like, brought to me, and were like, "Really? You were gonna throw that out?" Like, all those little things that I feel like in catering, sometimes you're moving so quickly.
Yeah, but talk about a really, really well-oiled system that the dishwasher knew that that was too much to be
Oh,
left in there.
so cool.
How cool is that, that they had built such a great system there and such an education for everybody that was employed that they were like, "Dude, what are you doing? This is like my raise."
So cool exactly, and that was something that really impressed me with Jo I don't know if you're familiar with Joanne Chang and Flour.
Oh, of course I am.
Um, she's amazing. At that point, she had maybe 5 locations when I was working in the South End one, and I worked 2 days a week. And she came in once a week she would ride her bike to every location. She came in once a week. We would have a tray of pastries out. She tasted, and their menu didn't change very often, but she did this tasting every week. And she knew my full name. She knew what classes I was in. She knew so much about me and every other employee around me. And we had this one interaction once a week. And she said hello to everyone. She said goodbye to everyone. She was so kind. And everyone just really listened to her in a very respectful way because she showed that respect in return. And it was such a great place as, like, a young starting out cook to see that, be like, "Okay, this is how we treat people." It was very cool. And yeah, all of her practices definitely went all the way down through the dishwasher and were held, and everyone agreed on those standards, which you don't always see. It was a great kitchen.
She's really smart, smart
She's so
woman,
smart.
smart chef, really just like set the tone in Boston.
She's so smart. So yeah, from there, I really wanted to leave Massachusetts, um, and I was trying to figure out kinda what my next step was, and I remember looking in a magazine. I think it was like Bon Appetit or something. And it was like, San Francisco is the best culinary city in America.
What year was that?
This would have been 2009. I graduated from college 2010. That seems right.
Yeah.
Something like that. Um, yeah. And I was like, okay, San Francisco sounds cool. I've never been. It's like people are saying it's like Europe. That sounds fun. And I started Googling lists because I was like, okay, I think pastry's my thing. Like after doing my little cookie business and kind of baking was kind of all they would really let me do with the catering company. So I was like, I guess this is my thing. And I Googled the 10 best bakeries in San Francisco. And I sat down in my dorm room and I cold called each one of them and just asked for the pastry chef. Kind of a funny, like thinking about it now, kind of a funny thing to do. And I went through this list. Amy's going to kill me. No one would talk to me but Amy Brown.
But you know what's amazing? It's like, that doesn't happen anymore. Nobody cold calls.
No.
Like, nobody sends letters with resumes. It's like they DM or I know it's a different world, right?
Yes.
Times have
Yes.
changed.
Times have
I
changed.
sound like a fucking curmudgeon, but that was hard to get a gig outside of the city that you were living in.
Absolutely.
You had to put in a lot of effort to get people to return your messages or return your letters, however you forwarded that emails, whatever it may have been at that time. That takes a lot of chutzpah to just cold call.
Yeah, I know it's funny, but I'm so glad I did it, and it's funny to me think now knowing the industry so much more to call some of these bakeries and be like, call Tartine and be like, hello, is Elizabeth there? You know what I mean? Like, it's just so ridiculous. Like, that's exactly what I did. Elizabeth was not there, but Amy was. So I called Marla Bakery and I think Amy answered the phone.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And this was when they had their location in the Mission. That was like a shared space that they were wholesaling out of and had the little window. And this was probably in like December or January before I graduated from school. And she was like, okay, we're actually going to be opening our first like real brick and mortar this spring. And so like we are going to start hiring. So like, yeah, if you come out and stage, maybe you can get a job. And I was like, okay, cool. So I went out in February. I went with my parents, because they were like, oh gosh, it's so cute. And I went and staged, had a great time. And they were like, cool, you can have the job. And I was like, okay, like now what? I just didn't understand, And so I got this job. There's no paperwork in kitchens. It's all, you're just like, okay, I have this job now. And I graduate in June and then I'll come back in June. And they're like, cool. And I would just email them all the time being like, hey, do I still have my job? I checked in all the time and I think they wanted to kill me. Like, hey, it's me. It's been 3 weeks. I just wanted to make sure you didn't change your mind.
But that's actually that's a pretty fair way to be because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Because it's also it's a handshake deal.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows? I didn't have very much experience at all. Someone could have walked in way better than me, just who knows. But it all worked out. I graduated from college. I moved to San Francisco that same week. I started working at Marla Bakery that same week, and I just kind of dove in and never looked back.
That's crazy. I mean, it's just that's a massive move across the country, sight unseen. Let's go for it.
Now, as we're walking through this, we'll get there, but I have a bit of a sight unseen habit of just moving and saying I'm going to do something and being like, sure, let's just go try it out. And that was and I fell so deeply in love with San Francisco. I was all in. I was hooked.
I mean, it's a really coming from the New England. I mean, one, your extended seasons, right? Here in the Bay Area, it's very Mediterranean climate compared to New England.
Yes. Yep.
And you have these extended growing seasons. You have the farmers markets, which are all year round,
Mhm,
not just a summer situation or spring to fall. And it really just kind of opens your eyes of what's
mhm.
available, right? Like it truly shows that California is the breadbasket that feeds the rest of the country.
Oh my gosh, and I just learned it was so great being that, like, Amy being the first kitchen that I worked in, she cared so much about sourcing and where the food came from. I mean, from our onions and garlic to our flour, everything that stepped foot in that kitchen was brought in by someone that she knew personally, and there were so many ingredients that I hadn't worked in an environment like that before, and my idea of seasonality was really those farm stands in New England where, like, once those pop up, now we're eating those ingredients, but once the season ends and those go away, we're back into grocery store land and buying berries in December. Like, that's what I kinda grew up with, and so I just like a pluot, quince, persimmons, all of these different fruits that were coming in. I just had no idea. It was so eye opening and so special. And after being there for a little bit, I got to run the farmer's market stand at the Ferry building, which was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me in that job.
How much bartering were you doing?
Oh my God. Well, that's how I got all my groceries.
Nobody talks about the bartering
So much
system.
bartering. So
I
much, and
will
I got
gladly trade you 2 scones for enough vegetables for the week.
it was like my friend and I, we did the stand together, and we were, like, pretty in with the mushroom guys, so we got, like, mushrooms for the week. We were getting our wheatgrass shots. We were, like, we were doing the whole thing, and we had so much fun and just learned so much and got to meet all the farmers, but we also got to meet all the chefs, which she didn't my friend Krista is, like, uber talented and just, like, didn't care about any of that, so I'd be like, "Do you know who that is?" I was always just, like, so excited. Um, I'm, like, selling pastries to Val and the Californios team, like, as they're shopping at the market and, like, trying to, like, quietly introduce myself. It was such a cool experience that I loved so much.
I mean, the market is that meeting point, right? It was the catch up for every chef for what's going on and the battle for the best product, right?
Mhm.
It was like the earlier you get there, you get first dibs.
Yep,
Or
yep.
if you have a relationship with the farmer, you ask in advance. It's like, dude, put that aside for
Put
me.
that aside, and you get your cart, which is
That with the fight for the cart was
a
just
challenge.
that became problematic for a
It
while. It was
became
just
very problematic.
people would chase each other down there. Are you done with your cart? Like,
It was crazy.
or you would do the whole loop without a cart and then get a cart and go back and pick all your shit up.
Ooh, that's smart.
That's how you would beat the system, by going super early.
I
But we
like it.
but we used to have our son, and he used to ride under the cart. So
Oh,
we would
sweet.
push him, and he would shovel berries and shit all when he was little. Yeah, it was
That's so
amazing.
great.
I mean, yeah, that market, I mean, just walking in through there, it's like in the winter citrus season, the abundance of varieties of citrus that, I remember the first time I saw all these things, right? Like varieties you've never seen before,
Never seen. It
never
changes
seen.
you. Yep.
Like Ertrog, Buddha's hand citron, and then
Mhm.
seeing all the Japanese citrus start to coming in. The Hamadas were the ones for me that just did,
Mhm.
you know, Sudachi for the first time, coming in with yuzus. And it's like you'd heard about all these things and you'd seen the bottles of the juices, but then to
Yep.
actually see the fruits
To actually see them.
and taste them. And it's like you had Rick Knoll selling some of the weirdest weeds and shit that you
Yep.
would never expect to be sold. And it really opened your eyes. That
I
stuff
love
makes
that
it
market so
amazing.
much.
Yeah, it's a powerful experience when you're not the first time being there is, like, overwhelming.
Totally. There's just so much to take in and so much to take in each season in a way that you don't get in other places. You never really have that lull where, like, should I go to the market because I know what 4 things are gonna be there at every stand. That just didn't exist. There was something worth going for every single week, and the social aspect of it alone, later down the line at Sons and Daughters, my chef used to he was like, "I can't go with you anymore. Like, you know everyone there, and you talk to all of them like they're your best friends, and you're taking up too much time."
Yeah,
Heard.
that's definitely but that was it was social hour, like you said, because a lot of us were working so much,
You
that
don't get
was the
out at
time.
all.
You don't
Yes.
get out, and it's like, "Hey, what's going on? Hey, if this cook comes by, he's really good, he's looking to work there," or "Don't
Yep.
hire this cook," or "Hey, what
Yep.
did you see? How's business?" You know, and it was a way to really keep in connection with what was going on, you know?
Absolutely.
I think that's really important, being a part of the community. And like we said, we were talking about prior to this was high tides raise all ships, right? And it's
Mhm.
like, hey, did you hear this convention's coming? Reach out to this person, she'll send you people. Like it really was a good way to keep everything on the up.
I loved that, like, that time that I was in San Francisco, it was after my first job there, I actually don't think I ever sent my resume after working at Marla. It became this, like, when it was time for me to leave and I wanted to go, I had a friend who had a friend over at Francis, and it was like someone talked to someone, and then that just sort of kept happening, and the application process that I kind of imagined happening just totally changed, and you just kind of bopped. If you were good and you had a good reputation, you could just sort of bop around in a way that was really communal. It was never negative, which was really cool. And yeah, it was such a unique time. I mean, obviously I'm not there anymore, but maybe it's definitely not the case that I experience here in Oregon. So I don't know if it's still the case there, but it was cool.
So you're at Marla. How long are you there before you make the
I
leap?
was there for about 2.5 years. We opened the space in the Richmond. I became the pastry chef at some point in time. Amy and Joe started having kids, which was a really cool experience to see as an employee and as a manager there. Like, just, I mean, so hard, as you know, to run. And we did a lot. We did breakfast, lunch, dinner certain days. We sold wholesale. We sold at farmers markets. We casted a really wide net that was very challenging in a lot of ways, but I got to learn so much in that regard. I mean, I remember when Amy was in labor because they lived right down the street from the bakery and it was like 4 a.m. and I was there doing the bake off. And she's in the car and Joe is driving her and Joe like pulled up to the restaurant and was like, "I need you to pay these bills today. Like I got to sign these checks for you." And I'm like in the car with that. It just I was so tied in to that family. It was comical. Um
That's crazy.
it was wild. But yeah, so I spent about 2.5 years there and then I really wanted to learn about desserts. Like I had experienced two bakeries at that point and I wanted to see what, like, plated desserts were like. I hadn't really experienced that before, and I had been the one doing it because we did dinner one night a week at Marla, and so that was kind of my thing with Amy's training was to figure that out, and I just wanted to learn that more, and so, like I said, I had a friend whose friend worked at Francis, and Octavia had just opened, and so Sarah, their pastry chef, was moving over to the Octavia kitchen, and they needed a pastry cook on site at Francis. And so I ended up going there and got that job and just had the best time ever. So far at this time I was really lucky to I went from Joanne Chang to Amy Brown to Michaela and Melissa Perillo. Like I had all these really incredible women teaching me how to cook, which I feel like is a pretty unique perspective. And Francis was kind of known as like the female kitchen.
Yeah. These
It
are all
was
strong, powerful, articulate, driven women who
yes,
are guiding you, which is amazing.
so cool. And all the women that have come out of Francis, all the sous chefs and line cooks, like it was so cool. And so I jumped into that kitchen, really head first, super excited to see what service was like, and daunting and a little intimidated, never working a line before like that. Never working a line at all. I didn't. know what I was walking into. And it was that kitchen, like you prep out your station by yourself. You get yourself entirely set up. There's a small daytime crew that's kind of like washing greens and doing things along that line. And you're just really self sufficient. And you work a hard station and you shut it all down. It was like such a team sport that I really loved. But pastry was a little funny there because this kitchen existed at Octavia now. You were getting a lot of things sent to you. So, like, lumberjack cakes were baked off already, and ice cream was spun already, your pavlova was made already. And so, after doing that for a little bit, I just wanted to know more. Um, and Melissa was so great in the respect that, like, I got coffee with her once, which was so cool because at that time, she's deep in opening Octavia. I didn't really work the line with Melissa very much, and something that really stood out to me was the impact that she still continued to have on her team, the impact that she's had on my career and in my life. And I only worked the line with her if our CDC was on vacation, very limited windows. But I got coffee with her and I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And she was like, you know what? I'm losing someone on the pasta station. I'm going to put you on the line one night a week. We'll do like pastry 4 nights a week and we'll start doing this station one night a week. And then I just kind of she like totally flipped me to the other side and I
Wow.
just kept going and it was great. I don't know if that was her intent, but she nailed it.
Well, I think it's really interesting because when you look at pastry, right? And I say this a lot. Recipes are a guideline, right? In savory. Because things change, right? Produce changes, it evolves throughout the seasons. You need to adjust with a little salt here, a little acid there, and they're not as exact. Pastry, don't fuck with the recipe or you're going to
Yep.
make garbage.
Yep.
That's just it. Like you miss
It is.
salt, shit. You miss sugar, shit. The yeast is wrong, it's shit. And I think we really have to understand that from a culinary point of view. But then when you take somebody from pastry and you transition them into savory, there's two things that can happen. One, they excel and it's like a rocket ship because they're so hyper organized, or they can't handle the micro adjustments that need to be
Hmm.
made to dishes, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the majority rocket ship. That's what's so amazing about it because you see it all the time. I can list so many chefs who started in pastry who have transitioned over,
Yep.
right? And it's like they're rocket ships. It's just like the memory's going because chefs, it's almost, savory chefs, it's almost impossible for them to transition to
It's
pastry.
fascinating how hard it is for some people.
It's every chef will probably have maybe I'm going to give most chefs anywhere between 5 to 6 in the back pocket when their pastry chef bails on them desserts.
Yep. Panna
Like that's
cotta.
it, right? And
Yep.
if and it's they're pretty, you know, not so complicated.
Yes.
But right? But that is the norm.
Totally. And I remember when I was at Francis, I did a stage at Astor. I think it was like on my days on Mondays, I would go and work at Astor
Brett is
and
the best.
so great.
The best.
And their pastry chef at the time, because he had worked at Marlowe Bakery too and helped them get open. And I remember, God, he taught me so much, which is one to always fold your towels. And now I am that person who's like, "Why is your towel not folded?" But he said to me very clearly one day, because he got like brought up, it was like, "Hey, can you break down this piece of lamb?" And he had to run upstairs and go do it for them. And I was like, I was like, "What?" And he was like, "If you can't learn how to do everything else in the kitchen, you are the first position to get fired. Restaurants are hard. There's never enough money for the pastry chef, and you will go. So make yourself useful if you want a job." And I was like, "Damn, okay." And it is such good insight. I like now the way that I operate my kit, we don't have a pastry chef in Hayward. It is, myself, my CDC, my sous chef, everyone participates in the desserts. everyone participates in prepping out those desserts, and there is not one person who is the only one who knows how to do all those things, and I think, to me, that is so important.
Cross
It's
training is key.
it has to happen, and I really am fortunate and grateful that I know both sides. I've struggled with it a bit in the sense that I felt like, do I know a little bit of everything and not a lot of one thing? But that's, a personal battle that I have to deal with all the time. But I think it's great. I'm so personally, I'm so glad that I switched over to Savory and got that experience. And I loved the pace so much more. um, I liked the freedom of it so much more, and yeah, it changed the game. So that
So
was
you
Francis.
that's Francis. So you're on the line there. What was that next jump? What was the next thing?
I had decided that I wanted to go see the world a little bit. I really wanted to go to Europe. And I had thought at the time I had thought that I was going to go. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to do like a month here, a month there. Maybe I'll do 3 months and I'll like rent an apartment in each place and I'll spend like a month in France and a month in Spain and a month somewhere else. Um, and the guy I was dating at the time ended up wanting to come with me, and he was a very avid backpacker. And he kind of flipped the script and was like, we're going to go for 6 months and we're going to backpack and we are going to spend like 2 nights in every city and town that we can come across. Um, so that was how the trip ended up going down. I wish I kind of put my foot down a little bit on that, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And he did, so I just kind of let him take the lead on that. And so I backpacked around Europe for 6 months. And it was amazing. I didn't, sometimes I wish I had staged around. I didn't at all. But I think, one, I think I was too scared. And two, I do think it gave me a perspective as a diner in a way that I hadn't really had yet. I hadn't really I'd always eaten well growing up. I had experienced, good restaurants, but I didn't, after working in the industry, I didn't have the perspective of really being a diner, and leaning into the culture. And also, I'm backpacking, right? I do not have a lot of money to spend. I'm not going to all these fine dining meals. I'm going to really low key local bistros. I'm buying a lot of things at the farmer's market, cooking it in our Airbnb or wherever we're staying, and really just paid attention to all the farms that we were driving past. And because we didn't fly anywhere, we took trains everywhere. So I just got this different insight on the agriculture and the culture more than I had expected, which was really eye opening. And I think I thought I was going to go to Europe and be like, pastries, here we go. Like, I'm going to go to all these bakeries and maybe I'm going to switch back because that's what I'm supposed to do. I don't know. And I was not really interested. I was, in the sense that it was food and I was excited to eat it, but I was so much more interested in the agriculture that was happening and the restaurants that were happening. And yeah, it kind of made that decision. It really set that in stone for me. Um,
That's
yeah, so that was
so
Europe.
that's I think the travel, the experience of travel, the the living the life of everybody, right? Like the everyday people
Yes.
and how they eat and how they live their lives in Europe is very different than how it happens here. The train system, the hiking systems are all interconnected through countries, and it really allows you an insight into life.
Hmm.
And I think that's really powerful. That
It was
changes a lot
huge.
of things. Like the little cafe that's at the end of the hiking trail probably has some of the most amazing food because they're expecting these hikers to be coming through,
Hmm. Hmm. It's
right?
huge.
It's a huge thing. And it's like, I think that is just, or actually even more powerful than doing all the Michelin star experience.
Oh, totally. I haven't had a ton of Michelin star experiences, like, the more that I think about it, which is really interesting, but I've eaten so well in these types of places. I mean, I remember we went to Albania, which was one of my favorite stops, and, you know, huge language barrier, no idea how to communicate, and the people were so
Pointing,
kind. Oh, pointing and
pointing.
everything. And there was one place that we went to, and we go and we sit down and, like, there's no menu and we can't figure out how to communicate, and they brought us back into the kitchen, and they had, like, hotel pans of different dishes, and they just had us pointing, like, "Do you want" we just pointed at
That's so cool.
some that we wanted to try, and it was amazing. It was just, like, incredible home cooking with different ingredients and different flavors that I had never experienced before, and this community around food. I think what Europe does so well is sort of this, like, mid-afternoon break, as we've all experienced, right?
Yes,
And in Spain, it entirely shuts down.
completely.
Um, but you have, like, in some places, you get sort of this, like, just this there's no rush. There's nowhere to be. And so you're in these establishments that these it's friends and family, and everyone's just sort of hanging out, whether they're eating something or not. It is just communal. And it was so impactful to see. And then there's a term for it, but there was, like, the evening walk everywhere around 9 p.m., especially in the Mediterranean, where, like, the streets are full and everyone is just walking with their family.
It's the after meal digestion walk.
Yes. It's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It's, it's really interesting. The US, we really look to Europe and have for years for concepts, right?
Mhm.
They look at restaurant concepts and ideas. But the difference is the US is very rushed. We're a very rushed society. It's how quick we can, get things done or how soon we can get in and out.
Yep.
And what that's created is a different style of restaurant. Whereas in Europe, whether you're in Spain or France, Italy, it's very casual. No one's going to kick you out. You have to ask for your check. They won't ever present one. That doesn't exist here.
No, not at all.
And I think we can't emulate that type of restaurant in the US, or we have these visions in our head, like I keep saying, like, oh man, that restaurant was so tiny and beautiful. And like I was telling you about Xenophos, right? Like they just
Mhm.
had so small, but they were busy, yet nobody was pushed out the door.
Yep.
It's a style of hospitality in life that is very different, that is almost impossible to create here.
It feels that way. And, and restaurants that are so specific in what they do, menus that are really small, and you just kind of have to you gotta go with the flow. You have to eat with what's in front of you.
Yeah.
And they get to take the lead in a way that I think doesn't really exist in America.
No,
Um,
because and I'm gonna say that's like the Cheesecake Factory mentality of having something for everybody is the problem,
correct. It
right?
it is the problem.
It's like you go to Italy or you go to Spain in spring and it's lamb with artichokes. And if you don't like artichokes, don't order the fucking lamb,
Then don't get that dish.
right? It's just like piss off.
That's it. Yep.
And that's it. There's something else there for you.
Yep.
And I loved that about the menus there. It was just like 5 starters, maybe 5 entrees, 3 desserts, and cheese.
Yep.
And you can do 2. You can do a 2-course menu,
Yep.
right? You can do a 3-course menu. You can do whatever, or you can order whatever. And I think that to me is why those restaurants succeed.
Yes.
Why they're winning is because less is more, because the
Yes.
focus is on less cooking, not less cooking, but more attention to the cooking because there's less ingredients to prepare. There's
Yep.
less things on the menu. The staff isn't scattered. It's just hyper organized.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what we need to go back to.
Totally. And it's such an important for me, it was such an important lesson to learn. I think, you can relate to this, like, growing New England restaurants are funny. Um, at the time that I was growing up, it was very much like larger menus, and everything was sort of like, here's your protein, here's your starch, here's your vegetable on a plate. This is what you get. Very entree driven
Yeah.
dining. And Europe is so different in that regard, in just the sense of like this small communal dining. You're eating, this is what your option is. There's no dietaries, there's no substitutions.
Yeah.
You're in or you're out. And God, if only we could go back to that.
A lot of
Um,
communal tables too. So like
and
people are
so
sitting,
many communal tables.
and it's like that has become, I know COVID created a big problem with that, right? But like it elicited conversation and people would see what the people next to them were getting. You go, oh, that looks beautiful.
Yes.
And that
And you could
would,
have that conversation.
exactly, unless there was a language barrier, but usually that would always work itself out,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And that to me is so important, but we digress.
Yes.
The problems of the restaurant world.
Wild. So that was Europe.
As a chef, I'm always asked the same question. What's your secret to making a restaurant quality dish at home? It's not just the ingredients, it's how you bring them to life, and it starts with the right tools. Heston's ProBond professional clad cookware collection will give you control, consistency, and confidence. It's cookware that makes you want to cook more. Check it out at hestonculinary.com and use my promo code Cook with Chris for 10% off your first order. So, you know, what was it like coming back from that? Like, you're like on a walkabout ultimately,
Well,
right?
yeah, I was in a different world for 5, 6 months. I got an email when I was in Eastern Europe. We were in the Balkans at the time, and I got an email from Jen Jackson, who was the she was a sous chef at Francis and at Octavia, and her husband was the CDC at Sons and Daughters, and they were expecting a kid, and they were pretty dialed at Francis and Octavia, it seemed, but Sons and Daughters needed some help. And she was like, "I think you're coming home soon, and Alex could really use someone for his paternity leave just to be around for like 3 weeks or a month. Would you be interested?" And I was about ready to go home at that point. So I went home. My boyfriend at the time actually stayed and kept going. I went, I remember I thought I was going into stage at Sons and Daughters.
You get stuck at
And
the station first day.
yeah. And I was just like, and they were like, "What do you mean you're staging? Like, I thought you took I was like, "Okay, great." And I was like, "Do you want to, like, you don't want me? Okay, cool." And Alex was like, "If my wife likes you, you're in. So you're in." And then, yeah, I hopped in. And this was really different than any kitchen I had worked in. This was all men, and very fine dining. I had never experienced this like 9-course tasting menu, tweezer, tiny knife work. And I was very nervous and very insecure. I felt a little out of place in the beginning, not because of the dynamic of like male versus female. That was a no problem for me. I really liked everyone in the kitchen. It was the food itself that was being put out. Like I had worked for people. Melissa is like the queen of salads. The food at Francis is so I don't want this to sound wrong, but it's so like understanding, if that makes sense.
Thoughtful.
Yes, thank you. Thoughtful is such a great word for that. Like it is what it is, and it's beautiful, and the ingredients speak for themselves, and there is so much thought and technique that she has behind it. And it
It's
just
of, I
shines.
call it, it's of time and place, right? It's of the
Yes.
moment and it's thoughtful. She went to the market, she did her research, and it's of the time and place. It's just
Yes.
exacting.
Yes, exactly. And that was what I was used to. That was what I knew. And then, especially going to Europe, that food is so, the way that I was eating in Europe, not going to Michelin star restaurants, it was so similar. And then getting to Sons and Daughters, which is like all, fine dining Michelin star restaurants, it's like so technique driven. And I just felt so insecure that I did not know or have this technique. And so I didn't really know where I fit in and like why they wanted me here. I knew that I was good with people. I could, communicate well. I was organized. I was a good line cook, and I was good at doing the work. It was the like execution and the prep part of things that made me really nervous. And there was just like xanthan gum and, they called it like fairy dust, and there was like magic powder, and there was meat glue, and I was like, what are all of these things? I just had no idea. I was like, what? Um, but yeah, it was a crazy time. And I am someone who really dives in. I don't really like put up walls for myself. So I went from not working for 5 months to working like 16-hour days, 6 days a week, because I wanted to learn. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to understand it. Like, what is the buzz behind cooks going and working for kitchens like this? So, like, let me really dive in and commit myself to this sort of an environment and see what I can get out of it. I also absolutely loved the people in that restaurant. Like that, when you have those times in a restaurant where just like everyone
Hmm.
clicks.
That's rare. It's
It's,
rarity.
yes,
And those moments are special. You'll go back to those and they'll be the most fond memories because the dance happened and nobody had to talk, and it was like you could go through service and everybody just did. It was like it's like a ballet. It just moves,
it was
right?
so cool.
The conversations were always great, and it really everybody pushed and everybody had a good time together, and there was out of work time together that was not just party. It was, go to, yes, you'd have an after shift drink, but then you guys, if you all had the same day off, you'd like do check out restaurants together.
That's
That is
exactly what we
powerful.
did. We
That's
would meet up for
powerful.
dim sum in the
Yeah.
morning. We were closed Mondays and Tuesdays, and we would spend those days together. We just were all always together, and it was so cool and so unique, and I still love all of those people. And it it was a time for me where like I learned so much in the kitchen. The food I never entirely connected with, but the people and the experience and the work ethic I did. I remember Alex was so good at, he would be like, all right, try me. Like, let's put a dish on the menu." And I was so terrified. And I was like, I don't know. I know Francis food. Like, I don't know this food. And God, I'll never forget this. I made this dish, and it was let's see if I can remember this. It was chicories that were braised in beet juice, and I made a smoked date puree and fried boquerones, and then like a little raw chicory salad on top of it. And it was very good. Like, it sounds a little funny, and like Ryan, who was the sous chef who became the CDC, and I'll kind of get through that transition. Um, we all were into it, and I think Ryan and Alex were so supportive of me, and I think that they were like into it, that it was mine, and were liking the dish. And night one, someone doesn't like it, and Teague, the owner, immediately took it off the menu. And Alex and Ryan were just like crushed. And they were like, you can't, this was always such a battle of ideas in this restaurant of like, we're going to change the food because one guest didn't like it. This is a tasting menu. Like, this is a ride. This is a journey. And, it's an interesting idea, right? Like, if one guest doesn't like this dish, do we question everything about it? And does it go away? And that was how
No,
the owner viewed it. He was like,
no.
"It's gone. Get it off."
That is the biggest mistake that you can make, in my opinion, because everybody's palate's different. One person's version of medium rare is different from another.
Mhm.
One person's level of salt is different from another, right? Some people don't like bitter. Some people do. Some people can't have cilantro. So if you have a dish with cilantro on it,
Do you just take it
do
off?
you take it off because people
Mhm.
have the cilantro allergy? No,
Yep.
and it's which is not really an allergy. It tastes like soap. So
Yep.
like you're gonna base your whole menu off one person's opinion every time, then you have no point of view. You're just chasing dollars.
Yep. And there was a real at this time, there was a real, and I don't think this is a negative thing to say about a restaurant. I think every restaurant struggles with this. There was a disagreement on how this tasting menu was supposed to go down. And the idea of like, I think a lot of people view tasting menus as, we're starting light and we're starting small and everything is going to build.
I like it backwards.
So Ryan and Alex were of the belief of like, that's boring. That's what everybody does. And we want it to be backwards. We want there to be highs and lows and like something is going to be intense and then we're going to cleanse you after that,
Yeah.
and that was uh not everyone, I'm trying to use my words wisely here, not everyone agreed on that sort of style of tasting menu. And so that was an interesting dynamic in like kitchen versus owner at that time that I had not really experienced.
Yeah. That can be, that's always a problematic issue, right? The
Yes.
creative with the dollars.
Yeah.
But also, I was very fortunate working with Mark Miller, right? And he always said to me that nobody's going to dance to music that's just da, right? How do people dance? Da 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 da. Ups and downs, highs and
Ups and
lows.
downs. Hmm.
And it's the same thing with food, whether it's spicy, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, right? And you're getting this palate just bouncing all over the place and it's
Yep.
making you think and it's eliciting conversation. It's
Yes.
making you think. If you cook in that fashion and a tasting menu is bouncing, you're like getting it. It's like, what's coming next? Is this going to be overpowering for what I have coming next, or is it going to balance it out? And it makes the adventure, it makes it an adventure
Which
ultimately.
is what it should be, right? Like that's why people are paying so much money to have this experience,
Exactly.
is to create conversation. And sometimes conversation is coming from different opinions. And
Yes.
you could have two people sitting at the table and one loves the dish and one doesn't. And like that's That's interesting to me. I mean, one of my favorite dishes that we've had on the menu at Hayward, we've done this crispy rice salad before, and we have had tables send it back, and we have had tables order another one. And that is such an exciting dish to me. It's that comes with having confidence, which has always been a struggle of mine, and this was definitely a struggle at Sons and Daughters, is being able to stand behind that. But I think those dishes sometimes are the most exciting, the ones that are the most challenging, and some people really get it and some people just don't, and that's okay. And yeah, Sons and Daughters was a time of those dishes, and it's something that I'm so grateful for, is that the chefs that I had there, Alex was the CDC who hired me. He was the one who made me a sous chef, which I think in hindsight, he knew he was going to be leaving and he did that very intentionally. And that was a little like, that one rocked the boat a little bit because I'd been there for a month. I had line cooked only at Francis, and I had these other cooks there who were like, what the fuck? Who's this
Yeah,
shit?
that happens.
Um, but he had so much confidence in me that I did not have in myself. It changed the game for me. And I think I loved being a sous chef. I was so all in. And even if I didn't have the technique that other people in that kitchen had, or if I didn't have the knife skills, that others had, I was so committed to learning and to running that restaurant as smoothly as possible. And I think I was successful in that. Like, I really do believe that I did that job well. And I had a lot of great support in Alex and in Ryan because they believed in me. And in a way that I don't think many others would have with the experience that I had had in a Michelin starred kitchen. It was so cool to have that trust, and that I honestly think that restaurant shifted me the most in a way that I did not expect. I spent about 2.5 years there and came out of that kitchen a different person. It was And still I have, the best relationships with those people. It it changed the way I think about food for sure.
one of the things I think that's really important that you said is the belief that they had in you, and I think there's a saying, and I'm not going to use the exact saying, but you know, you can teach people to follow, right? Leadership comes from within, right? The drive and want to be the best comes from within. You can't teach that, right? It's easy
Hmm.
to teach somebody to follow direction. It's not easy to teach them to go home and dream about it.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's what they saw.
Yep.
And that's they knew it because and then they fed that. So it's easy to feed that want when you look at that individual and you go, okay, they're here early today. They're doing this. They're asking questions. I see the notebook. I see what's going on. I know they're coming back with more questions because not only did they work the shift, they went home and looked it up last night and tried to figure out more about it. That is a drive that you feed.
Hmm.
That's what was happening. Whereas you have people who can easily follow direction and do exactly what's told of them, and maybe the fastest knife skills, this side of the West, but do they go home and dream about it? And I think, yes, it's all encompassing. You become tunnel focused, right?
Yes. Yep.
Which has its negatives too, but that's a drive. And you
Hmm.
can't instill that into somebody else. That has to come from within.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that I like when Alex promoted me to sous chef and Ryan was going to become the CDC. I think Ryan was like, "What? Who are you giving me? Like, what are you doing?" I didn't know. I just didn't know a lot of things, and but I mean, Ryan's one of my best friends now. He came to be all because I was so all in. I I was there before him, after him. I mean, I grasped that sous chef job as in like I did all the hiring, I did all the ordering. I took everything from Ryan so that Ryan was creative. He did the menu. I did everything else. And then I think he was like, "Okay, I like her." Like this could work. But like I didn't know who Marco Pierre White was. They gave me a case of DVDs of like old chefs. Like they were talking about restaurants that I just didn't know what they were. Those weren't things that we like talked about at Marla or at Francis. So to them I was not their normal sous chef in a restaurant like that. But I think it changed my mind on myself and it changed their mind on me in a way that was the best gift I could have asked for my self-confidence.
I'm guessing they also gave you the Pascal Barbeau DVD.
Yeah, I got it all. I had foot surgery once. It's a random unnecessary story, but I was out of out of work for a week and they were like, "Here's your homework." My job was to God, it was so funny. I'm going to say this anyways. I the owner of Sons and Daughters really never liked the fact that one, we were all such good friends because we spent too much time together at work, and two, that we didn't write anything down, which is not a it's a habit that I still have, which is not a good habit. And so my task for this break while I was resting from my surgery was to create this recipe binder and have all these things written down and so that we could have it, for years to come at Sons and Daughters. And the kitchen team was not super pleased about this idea. So I was like, how do I make this recipe binder? Like, what do you guys want me to do? And they just kind of wanted me to be an asshole in it. So like every description and every recipe would be like, salt it to taste, you asshole, figure it out. Like I just had to say like all these ridiculous things.
There is
I
it. That's crazy.
It was pretty funny. And I had to watch all those DVDs. That was sort of like my homework was, to come back with a recipe binder that made both sides of the wall happy and watch these DVDs and get a little bit more knowledge on some old French fine dining.
I have the whole series somewhere scattered up here amongst this wall.
I love it.
Oh yeah, there's so
It
many
was
old
great.
ones.
It was a
Yeah,
great
it's an
way
eye opener, right?
to spend. Oh, totally, totally. Because like I said, I didn't know that world, so I was learning so much in it and it gave me an appreciation for it that didn't expect to have, which was great. But, when my time ended there, I remember the owner asked me one day, like, and he and I had a great relationship. But he was like, "Okay, you've been the sous chef for a couple of years now. Like, the next step for you will be the chef of this restaurant. Like, that's what happens next." And I was just like, "I don't want that for me. I this is not this is not my food. I haven't quite figured out what my food is yet, but I don't think that this is going to be where I figure that out." And that was kind of when I knew, like, okay, then I probably should figure out my next step.
Power of no.
Mhm.
It's a
It
magic word.
was it was eye-opening, like, just having that opportunity presented, and I can't imagine what my life would be now if I stayed and went that path, but it was not the path for me.
I would love to have seen the look on his face when you said that. That must have been awesome.
I
It
think he
was
was
like
pretty bummed.
he was like,
He
"Oh,
really
fuck, what am I gonna do now?"
it was funny. God, I remember, we were hiring for, we always had 2 sous chefs. There was an executive sous chef and then, like, the sous chef, and when we were hiring for the sous chef, he was like, "I'd really like someone else like you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" But, like, elaborate for me, because I was interviewing them. And he was like, like your temperament, like your energy." And I was like, "You want another female in the kitchen?" And he was like, "Yes, that is what I would like."
Wow, talk
Okay,
about beating around the bush, afraid
perfect.
to
Yeah,
say it.
yeah, perfect.
It's like, "Dude, harden up, just say what you mean."
Just say what you mean.
It's not
But
hard. There's no offense taken. It says, "You know what? We need more female energy in this kitchen."
yeah, it's a
There's
good
nothing wrong with
energy to
saying
have.
that.
There's
It's a
nothing
good
wrong with
energy.
that. Yep, it was funny.
So your time has come, you've moved on.
So my time has come, and I was kind of at a crossroads because my boyfriend at the time, the one that I had went to Europe with, was really done with San Francisco, and he wanted out. And I knew that I didn't want to stay at. I knew that if I stayed longer at Sons and Daughters, I would just keep going down this rabbit hole of fine dining that I also knew, like, wasn't really for me. So we made the choice to move to Maine, for like a short term stint while we kind of figured out what we were going to do next. My dad had decided to get some Highland cattle as like a free retirement plan.
Oh,
Um,
because that's
you
what
know,
all people do.
yeah, very normal. And so we drove cross country and we went to Maine and we helped him, raise some cattle. And I called up my friend who was working for the Eventide restaurant group in Portland. She and I had worked together at Flower, and I don't do well not working. Like, the time off thing was not something that I wanted. So I worked part time for that restaurant group. I really wanted to learn how you're going to enjoy this knowing who my husband is now. I had a really strong desire to learn how to butcher. I got to learn it at Marla was like the first time I ever saw someone break down a pig, and I was just like, "Oh my god," my mind was blown. And that sent me down not a great path, which we won't talk about, but, I got to see it again at Sons and Daughters, and Ryan was so great at teaching me this, and we would, like, do it on our days off. Um, and that was really I actually should talk about that because that was something that really changed the game for me. This 9-course tasting menu, super tiny portions, and we're bringing in whole pigs, and we aren't using the whole pig on the menu, which was so fascinating to me.
That's
And
really I'm
I'm
gonna say this, and this might come off pretty poorly, but there is definitely a consistency with that amongst those style of restaurants.
it was it was bizarre, and like I didn't understand. I like this. So then why are we bringing in the whole pig? like, I get the desire of wanting to be the whole animal restaurant, but if you don't have a plan for the whole animal, then what are we doing here? And we did, like, we would cure a bunch of things, but it was always kind of like if we got to it, sort of a there wasn't just like the forward thinking with it, and so that was really insightful. So that's just a nod to make. But so when we went to Maine, I was like, I really would love to learn more about butchery. Kind of feels like this whole in my career, like I've gotten pastry, I've gotten bread, I have seen different types of kitchens. I haven't seen that much of this. And I couldn't really find a butcher shop in the area that we were in. It was all like, it's Maine. It was a lot of like mobile butchery. Um, and so I went to work for the Eventide Group and I could get in on the pastry side. That was like they were like, here's a pastry job. And there was one butcher on staff because they worked out of this commissary kitchen. It was like this really rad guy and he did it all by himself. And he didn't need me at all, but he would let me watch. He would be like, "Hey, I'm gonna break down a cow on this day. If you wanna come, you can watch." Like, I was not allowed
That's a
to touch
massive
anything. undertaking.
undertaking.
Oh my
Massive.
god, huge. And, like, so cool that they're doing it. They have 4 different restaurants, and they've got the restaurant that sells the burger, and they've got the fine dining restaurant that's selling these particular cuts. It was just a really fascinating commissary kitchen to work in and see how they were able to, like, still make everything from scratch and send it off to these different outposts that all had different identities. It was really interesting.
I mean,
And
to put it in perspective for somebody who doesn't really understand, it's like hanging up a Volkswagen Beetle by the bumper and taking it apart piece by piece. Like, it
yes,
just no other way to explain it, right? They're
so
massive,
cool.
massive creatures.
So cool. I loved it. And so I bought myself a pig, a dead one, to be clear. um
Not a 4-H one.
through the restaurant, and I brought it home to our house in Maine, and I broke it down in the kitchen by myself, and I, like, hung all the parts in the basement and, like, tried to set up this little, like, humidifier section, cured my own meats, and I was just, like, so excited. Was like, we were really trying out, like, the homesteading thing, and it was so cool. But yeah, and that was Maine was a very short stint, but it was a fun time of, like, taking care of these cows and, growing a lot of our own vegetables. We tried to see how long we could go without going to the grocery store. I think we lasted like 2 months. And it was cool.
That's amazing.
It was a little like isolating for me. I'm a pretty social person, but I really liked that side of it. So then it was time to come back to the West Coast. That was where I knew I always wanted to be. And Ryan and I had talked a lot about opening a restaurant together. So we went and spent 3 weeks in California driving from like Sonoma Coast to San Luis Obispo, kind of trying to find a town that we would want. And we have the 2 partners present. So like that the 4 of us would all want to live in. And it was not, we were all not agreeing on what that town was going to be. And then I think I was kind of seeing that maybe I was a bit more ready for that step than anyone else was, not in a bad way. It was just like, I was I'm a very serious dreamer. So if the dream exists, it is the goal, and that's what I'm going to get to. Like, I'm not the dreamer in the sense of like, here's this fun idea that we're going to talk about and we're never going to bring to life. That's like not really how I roll. So we did that road trip. We go back to Maine, and then I was on the phone with Alex, who was the CDC who hired me at Sons and Daughters, and he was living in Portland, Oregon at the time, opening a restaurant. And I'm kind of talking through this dilemma with him. And I was like, I just, don't really know where to go. And like, can I do this by myself? And I really want to live in a place where I could afford to own a home one day and have a restaurant. Like, that was really important to me. And so he was like, you know what? Oregon's pretty cool. It's a lot less expensive than California. There's a lot of cool things happening here. And I was not interested in living in Portland. Um, but he was like, there's this small town called McMinnville. It's in wine country, and there's this one restaurant, Thistle, that is there, and they, break down whole animals, and it's super tiny, and they have this chalkboard menu. And if that restaurant can exist there, I believe that you can too. And we very literally packed up our car and moved to McMinnville, having never been there before. And we moved to McMinnville in January, which is like the worst time to move to Oregon. It was so depressing.
I mean, you were coming from Maine, so I mean, it's pretty similar. It's just
That's true. That's
one's
true.
rain, one's snow.
That's
It's
very
like,
true.
right? I mean, it's you're a short drive to Portland if you wanted a little bit of city.
Yeah. Yep. It's an hour
But
away. So yeah, we packed up, we drove cross country again, moved to McMinnville, um, and didn't have a place to live. So just like kept a lot of things in our car, stayed at Airbnbs, charged our phones at the library, printed my resume at the library, and like tried to figure out what I was going to do. And McMinnville is also a small town. And so I brought my resume to a couple of places. This is really, now that like I know everyone, it's so funny to like revisit these things. I brought my resume to this place called Pizza Capo in town, and they threw my resume in the trash. And after the fact, there was three owners at the time, and one of them threw my resume in the trash. And the other owner took it out and found it. And he was like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, why won't you hire her? Are you kidding me?" And he was like, "She's gonna be so bored. She's gonna hate it here." And this is one of my friends now, and he's not wrong. You know what I mean? Like, he, it was, it was just funny, like coming into this town and, trying to figure out where to land. And I thought maybe I'll work at a winery because there are chefs there. Sarah Hammond was the chef at Soder at the time, and she had worked with my boyfriend at the time. And so I like went up to Soder, and she was like, "No, I don't really need any help." And then I was like talking to someone in a clothing store in town, and she was like, "If you want to get to know McMinnville, don't work at a winery. Like try to be in town somewhere." And of course, Thistle was the place that I like moved here because Thistle is this restaurant that exists, and they were like, "Oh, we don't hire people. We have like two employees." And I was like, "Well, damn it. I really should have thought this through before I moved." Um, so I ended up walking into this big new warehouse called Mac Market that had just opened a few months prior. And they had this fully built out kitchen that the owner was working on her laptop, like on a stool on a prep table. And the bar was open, and it was just like 10,000 square foot warehouse, people hanging out. There's live music, there's a food truck outside. And I'm sitting and I'm having a drink and I'm talking to the bartender. And I was like, what is this place? Like, what is going on here? And she was like, "Oh, that's the owner, Diana, right over there. She's in the kitchen." And I was like, "Well, what's with the kitchen? Like, why is it so like shiny and brand new and there's no one in it?" And she was like, "I think you should just talk to her. Like, here's her card." And so I sent Diana an email, and I was like, "I'm new to town. I've lived here for like 2 weeks, and I know I want to open my own place one day, but I really want to get to know this community first and be a part of it before I just like come in and do my own thing." And so we met, and she was like, "You're great. You're hired." And I'm kind of like, "What am I hired for? Like, what are we doing here?" And so they wanted me to start a breakfast program in this warehouse, in this empty kitchen that they had. And I am not a fan of breakfast. It's not my genre. I, but I was like, if this is really what you want, and like I get to kind of cook my own food and, figure that out, then sure. Like I will do that temporarily, and we will figure that out. Um, and I spent like 3 weeks getting this program ready, and we opened. I believe we had 2 days of service, and then we got shut down for COVID. And it was like,
the world changed. I mean, look, let's be
it was
honest. It
wild.
changed. It changed everywhere for all of us.
It was crazy. We had just found an apartment, we were like, didn't know anyone in this town. And just started this food program, and I was like, now what, you know? Um, so it was a roller coaster. We had to let go of all of our employees, and there was 3 of us. It was Diana, um, and her husband, who also owns the business with her, but he didn't really work in the business, myself, and a woman named Britt, and the 3 of us were like, "We gotta figure out, you know, how to not lose an aggressive amount of money during whatever this next chapter is." Um, I It was so hard and so overwhelming, but I look back on it now and I learned I had this really unique opportunity as someone who felt a little bit insecure and like a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I was trying to figure out what my food was. I got this chance to cook whatever I wanted to do because we basically ran this to go program, and we would do these meal kits. We would do like 3 different meals a week that people would pre-order and pick up, and we would post a video on Instagram of me teaching Britt how to make this meal kit at home. It was ridiculous. Um,
Smart.
but it was smart. It kept us alive. We didn't make money by any means, no one did, but we didn't lose an exorbitant amount of money, and I got a chance to cook so much different food and, like, really figure out who I was in a way that I didn't realize was quite happening at the time, but looking back on it now, it was so impactful.
In so many
And
different ways too, because you think about you're providing a service for the community at the time during COVID where people were grasping for something to feel normal.
yes,
And you gave them that by not only creating these rotational meal kits, but giving them an education. At the same time, you were showing them how to prepare, and it really gave them a connectivity to you. You then ultimately became an integrated part of the community.
exactly, and no one knew who I was at that time, so I got to, like, meet all of these customers and, hear feedback in a really positive way of, like, I have a tendency to make things way too spicy, and I did a jerk chicken night, and I, like, really smoked out some people's houses, which
Wow.
was not great.
But that is traditional jerk chicken.
It's true.
It's true,
It's
you know,
true.
but it's also palate-wise, you're
Yes.
learning your community, right? You're
Yes.
learning your guests, and I think that's being as authentic as you want may not hit your target,
Correct.
meaning your
Correct.
guests. It may not hit them in
Correct,
the right
which is
way.
important. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important. And it was also great because during that closure time, I got to convince Diana that, like, maybe breakfast isn't what we do and maybe it's dinner. So I got those few months of, like, getting out of the breakfast program. And then by the time we were able to reopen, we did dinner only. And that sort of morphed into it was like this counter service dinner program. And then we also ended up running a cafe during the day, which was great because I had that experience. It was pretty easy for me to slide into like bakery, coffee shop by day, and dinner by night. Um, and it was so cool and unique. No one really knew who we were. We only used whole animals. Like every single piece of meat that was on that menu was coming from an animal that I broke down with my one part-time employee at the time. And we're in this big open kitchen in this big open warehouse, and people are coming in to get a coffee, and I'm just like breaking down a pig. And everyone was like, "Who are you?" They just were confused. Um, but it opened up a lot of conversation, and I created this really special relationship with one farm in town and bought everything that she grew to a fault. Like I still have hot sauce from 4 years ago because went I just went way overboard because I just wanted them to trust me. I was like, "I promise you that I will buy all of these things from you," and so I did, and didn't always have the customers to sell it to. But it got me really into fermentation because I would overorder and not have an outlet for it, and so we would pickle and ferment things a lot, and the bread program became really strong. Um, and I just I got this opportunity to kind of workshop what Hayward is now without really even knowing that that's what I was doing. And I got to do that with very little attention on us, which I think was really beneficial in a lot of ways. At the time, you're like, we're slow. No one knows who we are. This can be very frustrating. Does anyone care about this food? People were very confused by it for a while in the small town. And there was a lot of challenges that came with it. But I think, like, really, even just in the past year, I've been able to look back on this experience and see that there was so much good to the space that I got to like create and figure myself out, um, and really kind of develop what Hayward is now, if that makes sense.
100%. You found you,
Yeah.
and you did it in a way that was, I wouldn't say secret, but I would
Mhm.
say it was quiet discovery.
Mhm.
And I
Absolutely.
think that's powerful, and I think that that's a really, um, sometimes, and, I kinda like, a lot of times I go back to skateboarding because I think it's such a powerful thing. Like, Rodney Mullen created all these tricks while skateboarding alone by himself in a barn because he had nobody to compare himself to and nobody to look at. And it's the same thing when nobody's comparing you to somebody else, when nobody's watching every single move you make, it gives you the freedom to succeed or fail at
Exactly.
at things, whether it's a dish, whether it's a I fucked up the bread or whatever. You're really just you're able to really find who you are without all the scrutiny.
Yes.
Yes,
Exactly.
there's fiscal scrutiny,
Mhm.
but there's not public scrutiny really as big as it
Correct.
it would be for you now.
Correct.
And that's powerful. That gives you it gave you a lot.
It gave me so much. It was huge. And so then we kind of hit this point at Mac Market that was none of us were super stoked in the direction that we were all like heading in our personal lives and careers. It just like wasn't for the three of us who were running this business, it wasn't feeling exactly what we wanted it to be. And I really at that point was like, I want to have my own restaurant and I want it to not be so hard for people to understand like what is happening in this warehouse. Um, but they convinced me to basically open a restaurant in the warehouse. We put up partition walls and we kind of separated it out and I was no longer like doing the food for all of Mac Market. I opened Hayward inside Mac Market in a much smaller footprint, and that was 3 years ago this week. I think it's tomorrow,
Wow.
actually. Um, yeah, and so we kind of launched this restaurant, which nothing was really changing on the food side of things. We just kind of got to, put a true name on it, like really kind of market it like its own restaurant. And we got to really hone in the service side of things. And so I brought on Emily, who was the owner of Thistle, the restaurant that I like came for. She ended up selling Thistle during COVID and somehow convinced her to come on and run front of house for this experience. And she was always had been a great customer of mine. And yeah, so we opened Hayward and it was great. It took off in the beginning. We opened, like, right before the summer, which was smart, and we had a pretty decent summer, and then it just really sort of fell off, and became very, very slow, and winters are already hard in wine country. It we rely on tourism a lot. We rely on locals too, but it everyone kind of hunkers down in the winter, and so at this time, Hayward was still owned by Mac Market. It was a confusing way that we did it. In hindsight, I definitely would have done things differently, but I basically co-owned Hayward with the owners of Mac Market, and they were not stoked at the financial direction that the restaurant was going in because it was not doing well. So we started having these meetings of kind of what we were going to do, and we had this meeting one day that was basically like change the food and make it more approachable or we need to pull the plug. And the next day we got nominated for best new restaurant for in James Beard.
And that went over like a fart in church with the partners. They were like, "Oh fuck, did we just shove our foots in our mouths?"
And it changed everything. Like, I just remember it's so weird, right? The day that we got nominated, we served 4 people for dinner with 4 covers.
It says a lot about you and sticking to your guns, right? Like, it's like you have a vision and you follow the direction and you believed in it. And I think that really is what's important, right? Like not cutting corners, following what you believe in, having a vision, having a direction, having a point of view. You won,
Yeah, it
right? And it's
was
like
absolutely.
I would have loved again. Now this is another moment where I would have loved to see the looks on their face after they told you, "All right, dumb it down. We want to make more money." And then like, "Oh fuck, we just got nominated for, best new restaurant." Like, like, yeah, what did they know? Again,
That's the
it's
and it was so confusing, in so many ways. I was so confused. I just was like, here's this huge thing that just happened that I cannot believe happened in like this partition walled back corner of this warehouse in McMinnville. And I'm looking at the iPad and I'm watching our reservation system just like climb and climb and climb and climb. And I'm also serving 4 people for dinner as this is all happening. Um,
and you're like, "We need to get some food in this house because we are gonna get
yeah,
slammed."
like what is about to happen? It is, and then I started going through a divorce. So then it like all, then it was just all of the layers. That winter and spring was incredibly challenging. There was just so much happening at one time, good and bad. And just like trying to figure it all out and like get through to the other side. And like I didn't really even know what that other side was, and then we made it to the finals, which was crazy. And then the whole team's going to Chicago, and it was an unbelievable experience that I will never forget. It was also incredibly hard, just with like what was happening in my personal life at the same time. And like kind of having this weird feeling of like this restaurant isn't working kind of continually put into my head, and then having that happen at the same time, it was challenging.
Having the right partners is key, and I think no one trains us as chefs for that. We think we're making the right decisions. We're not taught business. We're not taught how to read P&Ls. We're not taught how to find a proper business partner or set up contracts or negotiate. We're taught how to cook,
Correct.
right? We're taught how to manage food costs, we're taught how to manage labor costs.
Yeah. Like
If
we can
that
do all those things.
if that at best, right? Like
Yes.
maybe labor costs not so much, but food
Hmm.
costs yes.
Yeah.
And it's like we're taught how to maximize, we're taught how to really like be hyper efficient, but yet nobody teaches us the safety nets of the business ethics of it all, right? Like,
Correct.
do you have an attorney, right? Do you have a trademark for your name? Do
Hmm.
you have nobody tells you that these things are integral to this step, and that always backfires.
Yep.
Unless you
It
have a
definitely did.
mentor that pulls you aside and says, "Okay, listen, you need to create a company, you need to do this, you need to have this safety net in there, you need to have it." We need that more so than ever now as this generation of chefs is growing. We need those mentors. We need those safety
Yes.
nets.
Absolutely. And I was so lucky to have all of those friends from over the years and old bosses to call and kind of walk through all of these things, because then at that point, like the it was very clear that Hayward needed to separate out from Mac Market. So we started going through that process of me owning Hayward independently, which was challenging because Hayward was never created as an LLC. It was all tied to Mac Market. We basically just like stuck a name on it.
Oof.
It took a year to
Unravel.
unravel and then have it become just solely mine. Um, so that was a hard process. And I have the owners of Mac Market are my dear friends. They still are my friends. It was so you have that part of it as well, which is just tricky in a lot of ways. And trying to figure out the growth of the restaurant at the same time, and it was myself and John and Soren, in the kitchen for so long. It was the three of us doing all of this. And it's like, now wait, now we need some line cooks. Like we gotta like figure out what we're doing here. So there was just a lot we were breaking down animals because we were feeding, 40 people a night at most. And then that all changed. It's like, okay, how does that work? In comes Jimmy. There's just a lot of change that had to happen over what now seems like a very short period of time. Um, but we learned a lot.
Jimmy is
And
a suave, debonair butcher who owns a
yes, I should
slaughterhouse.
explain that. I should explain. Like, who's Jimmy? Jimmy is my husband who owns a company called Revel Meat Company, which was always who I had known about Jimmy. I had used meat from Revel because the whole animals that we were getting in from small farms he processed for. So all of these farmer connections that I had, they were sending their animals to Revel. Revel was slaughtering the animal and then sending it to us. And so our friendship grew over that connection. And we also had some mutual friends who introduced us as well. But it took us a few years of like knowing each other from a distance, and to finally meeting. And yeah, here we are. And it also, he changed my life in so many ways. He gave me the confidence to, really separate Hayward out onto its own, to move Hayward to a new space, um, to help me figure out this whole animal program that was becoming really challenging and how we could do that with Revel in a way that actually made sense for our restaurant. Um, so much grew because of that.
And I've known Jimmy for 20 plus years. Plus.
Yes, you've known Jimmy for a long time, which
Long time.
was such a fun realization recently.
Yes. Small world, small world.
And it was great, so Jimmy worked in San Francisco for a long time, and so fun to like relive our line cook lives. And that time that I went to go to San Francisco for the first time and visit, I went to Perbaco with my parents and had dinner. And Jimmy and I figured out that he was there that night. And he like brought me to Perbaco one day when we went to San Francisco, and I could like remember the table that I sat at, and just like, so, right. This is what's so special about restaurants. So cool that you can have those memories and hold on to them, and, remembering that like your friends and family of Coxcomb was the first one that I had ever been to. It's just that it's such a special industry, and those memories you get to hold on to for a long time.
I mean, we're very fortunate, right? It's a very small world.
It's a very small world.
So you've got new location.
New location, and that
You're in
happened
Carlton.
almost a year ago. We're in Carlton now. So we found our own space. It was the old firehouse in Carlton, much larger footprint, but standalone. And that's what was really important to me, was finding a space that was just us. That was like really all that I wanted. It's like, I will be anywhere in this county. People kept asking me like, why Carlton and not McMinnville? It really was not about the town per se. I wanted a standalone restaurant that was able to have foot traffic and be a part of a community that supported it. And Carlton has been so, so supportive. Um, and yeah, we just got this chance to control the music and control the temperature and control what the restaurant liked. And we were sharing a kitchen in Mac Market with a pizza restaurant. And that itself is, a unique experience. Um, so we got to have a dining room that didn't smell like pizza. Not that that's not great, but it just like wasn't really what we were going for. And it has been so great. I brought on one of my best friends, Jules, who is actually who married Jimmy and I to be our general manager. And the what she has done to the restaurant also has just been incredible, and getting to watch people really have the opportunity to like grow into their own in this space has been so so fun for me. It's I'm so glad we made the move.
It's such a fun space.
It's great. I'm glad
I
you got to see it.
I'm so glad we came in. That was such a great experience.
And it's been like I think you got to witness it well, like what I never could find in fine dining and something that I really wanted when I opened my own place was to have all the attention to detail on the food still stand, but have it feel like that sort of community hang. And
Yeah,
you and you get tourists to feel that way too, like they're a part of something. And that night that we were all there, I think was such a great example. People are just hanging out in different nooks and walking in from off the street and all meeting and mingling. I mean, we sat with some tourists who were in town and had a great time. It's my favorite part about it.
it was awesome. And so now you've also acquired a new space.
We have, yes, called Lucky Duck. It is right down the road. Carlton is about the size of your pinky, so it's just like on the other side of the street. It is going to be a culinary focused retail store. We are also going to have a coffee, pastry, and wine program. But we're selling all sorts of things like ceramics, linens, glassware, chef's knives, a very large cookbook selection. We really wanted this to be kind of a reflection of Jimmy and I's home, and all of the things that we use in the restaurant or at Revel or in our house are available for sale. And then upstairs, we have a two-bedroom apartment that is going to be a short-term rental. And then outside, we put in a food truck that we're having a chef residency. We might take over it one day. It's very unclear, but right now we at least have some friends of ours who have a pop-up in Portland that are going to take over for the summer. And so it's just going to be a very fun, like vibrant, active space.
That's awesome. It's just it's such a fun journey, you know? And I think that's what's amazing about this is everybody gets there through their own direction.
hmm hmm It's definitely been my own journey, and I'm so grateful for all the different things that have happened. And it's been being able to own this restaurant now in Carlton and getting to have you come in for dinner. I've had Melissa in for dinner. I've had Chef Stewart in for, all these people coming to this tiny town and hanging out in my space is like such a dream that I could not imagine. And it's been so, so fun.
What is your perception like on reality versus real? Like fake, this whole like perception versus reality on social media.
Oh, social media. I I struggle with it. I run our social medias. Um, and I struggle with it in the sense that like I feel like I don't have time for it, but I also and I don't really know why, I feel strongly that I want it to be in my voice. And since it's kind of been going that way, I don't really want to like give that up. Um, I think it's hard because it creates a lot of comparison, right? Like I spend more time on social media than I would like to since I run the restaurant and Lucky Ducks now. And I find myself getting stuck in this like doom scrolling, as they call it,
The
of what other
vortex.
people are the vortex of what other people are doing. But it also, on the other hand, gives this opportunity to connect with people like you that, you know, you meet at this event and then you have this chance to follow through with that and you get to build these relationships that I don't think were that easy to build back in the day. And so you get to stay tied into the industry in a way that I think is really special. But it is hard because everyone puts their best foot forward on social media, and it's why I do like running it, is that I want it to feel a little bit more personal and not so cookie cutter. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
No,
I
and I
struggle.
think that's really true because everybody puts the most glamorous photos. Nobody talks about what's broken, what's going wrong. Everybody talks about the same shit. What's
It's
perfect?
yeah, and it's just like perfect photos of food, and I'm like, Do you guys have a photographer coming in like every week?" We change our menu so often that I can't keep I mean, it's so hard to keep up with, and
Just an
so nothing
iPhone
is
photo. Who cares?
it's all iPhone photos,
There's nothing wrong with that.
and we do our photo shoots every once in a while with this great photographer, but, like, we take those pictures of food, and then I'm like, "Well, that dish is gone by the time we got the photos back, so, like, now what do I do?"
Yeah. What has been your worst professional mistake?
Oof. Um, I think not trusting myself to do something independently, not having the confidence to stand on my own and, like, believe in the process and believe in the decision and know that what I wanna do is the right path and kind of relying on other people to help get me there.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't. I think I've made some mistakes, but I think that I have learned so much from all of them that I wouldn't wanna take those away, if that makes sense.
No, it's true. Most memorable meal?
Ooh, you know, I can't, like to me, the most memorable meals are the ones that I am cooking with my friends. I try to think of, like, restaurants, and there's nothing that they're all so I've had so many incredible meals at restaurants, but the ones that I, like, hold on to is we did a big trip with our friends, we went to France, and we rented a house in the south of France and went to the farmer's market and bought all these ingredients and, like, found the rotisserie chicken guy that I had been hunting for because there's nothing better than a rotisserie chicken in France. And, all sat down and made this meal together from all these ingredients that we had gotten at the market. And this kind of crew of friends that we have, we do that every time we travel. And those are the meals that always stand out the most to me. They're simple, they are ingredient driven, and we got to be a part of that little community wherever we were staying. And like, that's how I want to eat all the time.
What won't you eat?
I am really particular about eggs. I
Wow.
I know this is a hot take. I like a hard-boiled egg is my nightmare. I won't I will not touch it. I will eat like almost anything else, but that or like a poached egg, no thank you.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Because the egg is such an integral part of so much food.
I know, and I love mayonnaise. I love mayonnaise. I'm a pastry person, at my core. I use eggs all of the time. I My dad was so offended this week because we were talking about this and Jimmy was like, "She'll only eat my omelets." And my dad was like, "That she used to only eat my omelets." And I'm like, "I'll eat both of your omelets." But like that's really like I would never order eggs in a restaurant also. It's a weird thing that I have. But like other than that, I will really eat anything.
One of the craziest things when we were in Spain is you can get eggs on top of tiny little firefly, um, squid, and they were doing eggs on top of potato chips. I mean, it's just like this egg over fried little white bait. It was insane.
Interesting.
Like, I was blown away at how delicious this was. It's
Wow.
amazing.
I know. It's a rarity. I don't know what it is. I saw deviled eggs the other day and I was like, "Get these away from me." Like I can't.
If you could sit down and eat dinner with anyone, with us or gone, who would it be?
I never got the opportunity to meet my husband's parents because they passed away before I met him. That would be my choice.
What's been your biggest culinary flop?
I I mean, I could tell you so many meals that I made during that time of like COVID testing things out that I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? I like so many, but I would the one that the one that I think about the most is the first time I made a family meal at Francis. It was when Melissa was working the line and I watched her take a bite of it, and I took a bite at the same time, and I realized that I didn't put salt in anything. And she just like immediately grabbed a handful of salt and put it in her container. And that is something that has stuck with me that I will never forget. There's been like so many dishes that I'm like, I should not have put that on a menu, but like that one stays in my mind forever.
Favorite cookbook?
I really think I have been most connected to Jeremy Fox's On Vegetables book. I love that book.
Favorite kitchen smell?
Favorite kitchen smell? Onions, garlic, and anchovies in a pan.
Yeah, that is pretty magic. Must-have kitchen tool.
Probably a mini spatula.
One piece of advice for a young cook.
I would say to lean in. Um, this is going to sound weird for a second, but bear with me. Like I think there is there's so much talk against burnout in a way that is very true. And it's so easy to overwork yourself in this industry. And I am all for a work life balance. But I think sometimes in that conversation, what gets missed is the energy of, you know, buying a fish on your day off and learning how to break it down, or going to eat any meal that you can eat, with a coworker or by yourself, or just like trying new things, or if you have an hour to spare, like rather than sitting at home and watching TV for an hour, like going into work an hour early to see something that you wouldn't normally get to see. It to me, that I'm not trying to encourage anyone to like work more than they have to, but being all in and kind of committing yourself in a way that like just opening your ears and opening your eyes and asking questions and not being afraid to sound dumb, just like ask anything, learn anything, take something off of someone's list to try something new. I That is the best advice that I could give, is just like commit yourself for a chunk of time. It doesn't mean that you need to change the way that you balance your life, but commit yourself in a way that you're like taking in everything around you in the same, like listen to the wines at lineup, like watch how the host is moving throughout service. Take it all in.
Commit to the craft.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
It's not. It really isn't.
It's just being observant and paying attention to the world around you. That's such a simple thing.
It's so easy if you just allow yourself to do it. If you don't drift off in your head, and you stay present, it makes a huge, huge difference. And your boss will notice, and people will notice.
Take notes.
Yep. Oh my God.
Write it down. You'll remember it that way.
That is, I
Draw
can't.
pictures.
I never went to work without a notebook, and that is like that's just not a thing anymore.
Yeah. And do us all a favor, guys. Don't take notes with your fucking Sharpies. That's just dumb.
It's insane. Or on your phone, use a notebook.
A notebook. Date it, timestamp it.
Yep.
Write with either a pencil or a ballpoint pen.
Yep.
Sharpies bleed. You'll never read it in a year. It'll just look like one big black page of blah.
Yep.
Like you write it down, you remember it.
Absolutely.
Like, do you read your reviews or no?
I do and I don't. I'm in a weird phase of like, I read our open table reviews. I don't read any of the other. I stay away from Google, Yelp, TripAdvisor. All of those I put aside unless like my GM will come to me if something is like, you really good or bad, like you really need to hear this. I think it's important to take everything with a grain of salt. And, sometimes some people are just people, they review a dish that wasn't even on the menu. But sometimes I think that you can learn some things from a review. And it's funny. We've been having this conversation a lot of like what to do for anniversaries. Birthdays feel really easy, right? Like you get a candle, you acknowledge it, but like, do you give someone a candle for this is just like a hot topic at lineup right now. And we got a review that was someone, saying that they had mentioned in their reservation that it was their anniversary and it didn't feel acknowledged. And I'm glad that I read that because it was something that we have been touching on already of what is the best way to handle it. And so sometimes I believe that it can be insightful in that regard. If it's a topic that we're already talking about and someone in the dining room picked up on that as well, then to me that's beneficial. But there is a lot that I have to just ignore. But then also sometimes you get a really great one that's important, I think, to share with your team so that they know that this thing that they did that went above and beyond was noticed. And I think that that can go a long way in like positive reinforcement.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, if you hear the same comment over and over and over again, salty or too spicy,
Correct.
those are things to address.
There are things to listen to.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but there's also yeah,
There's a lot not to listen to. And you just
exactly.
kind of have to weed through that and, hope that it doesn't bother you too much.
Favorite food city?
San Francisco,
What's important when you're hiring a cook?
um, attitude. To me, it's like it's not skill that I'm looking at. It is attitude, willingness to learn, and how they fit in with the kitchen that is there already.
What makes you happy as a chef?
Watching my team grow and succeed on a day where I'm not in the kitchen, and to know that it is all still moving and going just as I would want it to, and they're all doing it independently.
All right, you ready for the game?
I'm ready.
Coffee or tea? Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes,
Oatmeal yogurt,
yogurt,
bacon sausage,
sausage,
chicken duck,
chicken,
beef or pork,
pork,
quail or squab,
squab,
hot dog hamburger,
hamburger,
ketchup mustard,
mustard,
french fries onion rings,
french fries.
taco burrito.
I would probably go burrito, but like a good taco is better than a burrito. I just feel like if I were in Mexico, I would say taco. If I was in the States, I would say burrito. How about that?
Pasta or noodles?
Noodles,
Ravioli or dumplings?
dumplings,
Raw oysters, raw clams.
raw clams.
That's an East Coaster right there.
Yep, raw clams.
They're hard to get out here.
You can't get them.
You can. They're never consistent. You never send you the right size cherry stones.
Oh my God.
They always send you fucking honkers. I'm like, dude, that's not it. Lobster or crab?
Absolutely.
Sea urchin or caviar?
Caviar,
Black or white truffles?
white truffles,
Meatballs or sausage?
sausage.
Favorite pizza style?
Um, can I say salad pizza? Is that a pizza style?
I don't know. That's your choice.
You
eat
ever
it.
had a pizza where you just have like a huge salad on top of the pizza and it's just
I
like
have.
white sauce? And that's my favorite. That's what I want all the time.
Butter or olive oil?
Ooh. I might say olive oil for the versatility.
Duck fat, pork fat?
Duck fat,
Favorite acid to cook with? What's your
Meyer
go-to?
lemon juice.
Nice.
That at Francis, we only used Meyer lemon juice for like a long period of time. That stuck with me. I don't get it very often anymore, but that would be my favorite.
Do you prefer red wine or white wine?
White wine,
Light beer, dark beer?
light beer,
White spirits, dark spirits?
white spirits,
Favorite sparkling?
champagne.
Are you dessert or are you cheese?
Both, but probably cheese.
Do you prefer chocolate or fruit?
Chocolate,
Bitter or milk?
bitter.
Honey or maple syrup?
Maple syrup.
Favorite candy?
Oh boy. I live in a house of Haribo and not by my choice.
Does he dry age them?
There's jars and jars of them, and he gets all the bags and he mixes it all together in a bowl, and then he just like packs the mason jars. So I would say like a sour straw sort of world would be my world.
So does Jimmy dry age the Haribo? So
Oh
they
yeah,
get so much better dry age.
he loves them.
Amazing. Fast food, favorite one?
Popeyes.
That's a good one.
It's like I'm not a fast food person, but like I can get down with Popeyes.
You could get dirty rice there.
Oh, it's all good.
It's great.
Yeah.
Late night snack.
Late night snack. It's probably dumplings.
Guilty pleasure.
Cheez-Its. Is that a guilty pleasure? I
I
like
get-
sometimes there's a box in the office and I'm like, who did this to me? I love Cheez-Its.
They're good.
They're good.
What would be your last meal?
Anything that involved a Caesar salad. I love Caesar salads. It would like something that revolved around that. Prefer like chicken also with it. But yeah, like pretty classic.
Love it.
Good croutons. Important.
Very good. Very important. Cook them in olive oil in a pan.
Absolutely. Yep.
Do not just do some toasty old shit bread.
Yep.
And there's a lot of that out there. So if folks want to find you on social media,
I would ignore my personal social media. Go for Hayward Restaurant. That's the one that is most active. And then Lucky Duck. Now it's Lucky Duck OR for Oregon. So those are the two where you can find me.
so folks, if you have the time, definitely make the trek to wine country. Go visit Kerry. Lucky Duck coming soon. Hayward's cranking right now. And it's the perfect time to head out there to spend some time in Carlton in the wine country in Oregon. So, Kari, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's been such a pleasure.
Sorry, I just fucked up. It's Kari.
You're fine.
What
At
a
one point,
jackass.
I was like, should I correct him?
No.
But
I just totally wet the bed there. And I did exactly what I hate, which is when people say my name wrong. And I'm so sorry.
you're fine. You had it right. You're all good.
Thank you again. I
You're
really
doing great.
appreciate it.
It was great to see you.
It's great to see you too. Thanks for listening to How the Sausage is Made. If you've liked what you've heard today, please make sure to like and subscribe. And don't be afraid to tell your friends about it.